The Second Wave of Immigration. Chapter 14, Section 1. The Hopes of Immigrants. The main idea of this section is that in the mid-1800s, millions of Europeans came to the United States hoping to build a better life. Why that it matters today. The German, Irish, and Scandinavian immigrants who came during this time period still have a strong influence on American culture today. Key terms and names you can find through your notes in the Google Classroom: emigrant, immigrant, steerage, push-pull factors, famine, prejudice, and nativist. Please make sure to have your notes that serve as your homework handy to fill in as you view the video and or read the first part of the section. One American story. In June of 1831, Gert Havlen and his family left Norway for America. After a few years, Havlen wrote to a friend in Norway.
It would greatly please me to learn that all of you who are in need and have little chance of supporting yourselves and your families have decided to leave Norway and come to America. For even if many more come, there will be still room here for all. Those who are willing to work will not lack employment or business here.
Gert Havlen, letter to Torres Mayland, April 22nd, 1835. So after reading or listening to Gert Havlen's primary source, we want to analyze it by doing our SOAPS analysis acronym. So first of all, who is the speaker? What is the occasion? When and where did this take place? Who is the audience? Who did the speaker intend to hear his or read his letter? What is the purpose? To entertain, inform, or persuade? And what is the subject / main idea of the document? All right, pause the video and take a minute to answer each of these questions. See if you can come up with the answers on your own. And I'll be back in a minute to go through that with you. Okay, so we're back. So hopefully you came up with the speaker was the easiest one, would have been Gert Havlen. The occasion would have been April 22nd, 1835. There's Gert again. Okay. The where was it written? Would have been in America. All right, because after a few years he left Norway for America. All right, he wrote a friend in Norway. Who is the audience? Who is he speaking to, or who does he want to read his letter? That would be Torres Mayland. What is his purpose? That would be to either inform, but more likely to persuade. And what is he trying to persuade Torres to do? To come to America by giving him information about what it's like in America, that there is room here for all, and those who are willing to work will not lack employment or business here. And we know, once again, it's persuade because it would greatly please Gert to learn that all of you who are in need and have little chance of supporting yourselves and your families would decide to leave Norway and come to America. Okay, and then once again, ultimately, that is the main idea. That's the subject. Gert Havlen trying to get Torres Mayland and all of his friends who are having a tough time in Norway to leave for America for all of the opportunities that are here in America. Okay, so millions of people like Havlen decided to become emigrants, or people who leave a country. Emigrant, as in exit. Okay, arriving in the United States, they became immigrants with an I, meaning or thinking coming into. So when you leave, you are exiting, you're an emigrant. When you come into, all right, you are an immigrant with an I. All right, so immigrants are people who settle in, there's that I again, a new country. This section explains how immigrants enriched the United States with their work and their cultures. Why most people migrated. Most immigrants endured hardships to come to America. Although some, like Hovland, brought their families, many immigrant men came alone and suffered loneliness. Nearly all immigrants made the ocean voyage in steerage, the cheapest deck on a ship. Here you can see a picture of what it would have looked like in the steerage deck of a ship. In steerage, hundreds of people lived jammed together for 10 days to a month. Conditions were filthy. Many passengers became ill or even died on the journey. Despite the hard passage, immigrants flocked to the United States during the mid-1800s. They came from Britain, Ireland, Germany, and Scandinavia, which includes the country of Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. Sometimes we consider Finland part of Scandinavia as well, but since it's so close to Russia, lots of times it's considered more of a Slavic nation than a Scandinavian one. And also, there were not many Finn immigrants during this time. We also had many immigrants who came from China, which we know is further east. However, most came from Europe. What made them come to America? Historians talk about push-pull factors. These forces push people out of their native lands and pull them towards a new place. Push factors include the following. Population growth. Better food and sanitation caused Europe's population to boom after 1750, and the land became overcrowded. So in other words, people started learning to move the human waste materials away from the cities, and therefore disease spread at a much slower rate. People didn't get sick as quickly. This sounds like a great thing for those who are living longer. However, this is leading to a lot of overcrowding and overpopulation in Europe. Europe is a very small continent to begin with, and there's already a lot of people living there. Now there's fewer and fewer land and area for people to live, and this is causing people to want to get out and get to an area that would have more a land, or a country that would have more abundant space for them to raise their families and to not live in such cramped conditions. Another push factor is agricultural changes. As Europe's population grew, so did the cities. Landowners wanted to make money selling food to those cities. New methods to make the food made it more efficient to farm large areas of land than to rent small plots of land to tenants. So landlords forced tenants off the land. So when they used to own large pieces of land, there was only so much land they could farm on their own. Now there's new machines and materials that help them to farm larger pieces of land, and are now kicking the people off the land that they used to rent to, so they can use that land to farm themselves and sell the food to the overpopulation, or the large population in the cities, and make more money. So the people who are now kicked off the land need a place to go. A third push factor were crop failures. Poor harvests made it difficult for small farmers to pay their debts. So, having no money, these farmers chose to start over in America. Crop failures also led to hunger, causing people to immigrate because they did not have enough food. One of the more famous crop failures that led to famine would have been the Irish potato famine, which we will discuss in the next video of Chapter 14, Section 1, Part 2. A fourth push factor was the Industrial Revolution. Goods were now produced in factories and therefore became cheaper than when goods were produced by hand by artisans. Suddenly out of work, the artisans needed jobs, so they either took the jobs in factories, or if they couldn't get a job in factories, they had to find work somewhere else, so they emigrated, left their home country, and looked for work elsewhere. Lots of times this led to them immigrating to the United States. The final push factor was religious and political turmoil. To escape religious persecution, Quakers fled Norway and Jews left Germany. Many Catholics left other parts of the world that were also persecuting them for being Catholic. Also, many Germans came to America after a failed revolution in 1848, and they therefore wanted to escape the military in which they had failed to overthrow. Immigrants chose the United States because of three main pull factors. The first was freedom. As Geert Hovland wrote, everyone has the freedom to practice the teaching and religion he prefers. So while the United States offered many different types of freedoms, the main freedom that immigrants were looking for was religious freedom. The second pull factor, or reason that people chose the United States, was economic opportunity. Immigrants sought a land where they could support their families and have a better future. Immigration often rose during times of U.S. prosperity and fell during hard times. So people were looking for, with economic opportunity, jobs. And what do jobs provide? Money, of course, to support your family. And that was in abundance here in the United States in the 1820s through the 1860s. The final pull factor for the United States was abundant land. The acquisition of the Louisiana Purchase and the Mexican Secession, meaning the United States took California and other land from Mexico, gave the United States millions more acres of land. To land-starved Europeans, America was a land of opportunity. And you can see the large, sprawling landscape with farmland here in the picture that provided many of the former farmers in Europe who no longer had land to farm, plenty of acreage here for them to support their families. This is where we are going to stop for today, and we will see you tomorrow for part 2 of chapter 14, section 1, The Hopes of Immigrants. Please make sure that you complete your notes that go with this video and the first part of the reading of chapter 14, section 1. We'll see you tomorrow in class.